The suitcase sat by the front door like a loyal dog, packed with lies I hadn't learned to recognize yet. Marta zipped it shut with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this dance before, her manicured fingers moving across the leather handle with the confidence of a woman who believed her husband was an idiot. "It's just a girls' weekend, Owen," she said, not meeting my eyes as she checked her phone for the third time in 5 minutes. "You know how Sarah gets when we cancel on her." I nodded from the kitchen doorway, coffee mug warming my hands against the October chill that seemed to live permanently in our Minneapolis suburb home these days. 22 years of marriage had taught me when to push and when to let sleeping dogs lie. This felt like a sleeping dog moment, even though something in my gut was growling. "Miami again?" I asked, watching her face in the hallway mirror. "Actually, no. Sarah found this cute place in Duluth. Some spa resort thing." The lie rolled off her tongue like honey, sweet and smooth, and probably rotten underneath. You know how she is with her spontaneous ideas. I knew Sarah Martinez all right. Known her since college, back when she and Marta were inseparable roommates who shared everything from clothes to boyfriends. Sarah was about as spontaneous as a tax audit and had the organizational skills of a military general. If Sarah planned a trip, she'd have itineraries printed and laminated 6 weeks in advance. "Sounds nice," I said, taking another sip of coffee. The bitter taste matched my mood perfectly. Marta finally looked at me, her green eyes doing that thing they did when she was checking to see if I was buying whatever she was selling. "You're not upset, are you? I know we talked about maybe doing something together this weekend." Had we? I couldn't remember, but then again, I couldn't remember the last time we'd done anything together that didn't involve discussing mortgage payments or whose turn it was to call the plumber. Our marriage had become a business partnership somewhere along the way, and not a particularly profitable one. "Nah, I've got plenty to keep me busy," I lied right back. "Mike wants help with his deck project anyway." She smiled then, the kind of relieved smile that should have been my first real clue. "Perfect. You guys have fun with your man project." The irony of that statement would hit me like a sledgehammer later. My phone buzzed with a text from Big Mike Kowalski, my best friend since high school and the only person who could make me laugh when everything else felt like sandpaper on sunburn. "Poker tonight? Jenny's taking the kids to her mom's. Fair warning, I bought cheap beer and expensive cigars, so priorities are backwards." I texted back, "Can't. Wife's going out of town, house-sitting duty." "Since when do you house-sit your own house? Come over after she leaves, you antisocial hermit." Maybe I would. The house always felt too big and too quiet when Marta was gone, like a museum of a life I wasn't sure I recognized anymore. "Owen?" Marta's voice pulled me back. She was standing by the door now, designer purse slung over her shoulder, looking like she'd stepped out of one of those lifestyle magazines she was always reading. At 43, she was still beautiful in that carefully maintained way that required gym memberships and salon appointments and products I couldn't pronounce. "Yeah? I love you." The words hung in the air between us like smoke. "Love you too," I replied automatically, the same way I'd say "bless you" after a sneeze. She kissed my cheek, her perfume lingering as she grabbed her suitcase and headed for the garage. I watched through the window as she loaded her bag into her silver Lexus, the one she'd insisted we needed for her job in marketing at Hennepin Healthcare. "Image matters," she'd said. "People judge you by your car before they judge you by your work." The garage door rumbled closed, and I was alone. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt like I was standing in the eye of a hurricane, everything calm and still, while chaos spun around me just out of sight. I finished my coffee and tried to shake the feeling that something fundamental had just shifted in my world. The house phone rang, startling me out of my brooding. The caller ID showed Sarah's number. "Hey Sarah, Marta just left. You girls have fun up in Duluth." Silence. Then, "Duluth? Owen, what are you talking about?" My coffee mug suddenly felt very heavy in my hands. "The spa weekend. Marta said you planned some last-minute trip." "Owen, I'm at home with a sick kid. I haven't talked to Marta in 3 weeks. We're not really friends anymore." The hurricane eye collapsed, and everything that had been spinning around me came crashing down at once. "What do you mean you're not friends anymore?" Sarah sighed, the sound carrying 20 years of complicated history. "Look, I probably shouldn't be the one to tell you this, but Marta and I had a falling out. It was about... Well, it doesn't matter what it was about. The point is, if she's going somewhere this weekend, it's not with me." My hand tightened around the phone. "How long ago was this falling out?" "About 6 months ago, maybe 7, right around the time she started getting all secretive about everything." 6 months. I thought about all the girls' trips Marta had taken in the last 6 months. The sudden weekend getaways, the spa retreats, the shopping expeditions to Chicago, all of them supposedly with Sarah and their little circle of college friends. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Have you been on any trips with Marta recently? Any trips at all? Another pause, longer this time. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was gentle in the way people get when they're about to break bad news. Owen, I haven't been on a trip with Marta in over a year, and neither have Lisa or Jennifer. We all kind of drifted apart from her around the same time. The phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Why? Because she changed, Owen. She became someone we didn't recognize, someone who lied about little things, big things, everything in between, someone who thought the rules didn't apply to her anymore. I thanked Sarah and hung up, my hands shaking slightly as I set the phone back in its cradle. The house felt different now, like someone had rearranged all the furniture while I wasn't looking. Everything was in the same place, but nothing felt right. I walked to our bedroom and stood in the doorway, looking at Marta's side of the closet, half empty, like always after she packed for a trip. But now I found myself wondering what she'd taken, what she thought she'd need for wherever she was really going. My phone buzzed with a text from Marta. Just got to the resort. No cell service up here, so don't worry if you can't reach me. Love you. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, got it. Hope you and Ryan have a good week. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Ryan Foster. The name had been floating around the edges of Marta's conversations for months. A friend of a friend, she'd said. Someone from work, she'd said. Just a guy who knew about good restaurants, good hotels, good places to disappear for a weekend. My phone rang immediately, Marta's ringtone. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. On the fourth call, I answered. Owen, what did you mean by that text? Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear panic underneath like water behind a cracking dam. What text? You know what text. About Ryan. Oh, that text. I meant exactly what I said. Hope you and Ryan have a good week together. The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. Owen, I don't know what you think you know, but I know Sarah's at home with a sick kid. I know Lisa's in town because I saw her at the grocery store yesterday. I know Jennifer posted pictures from her own living room on Facebook an hour ago. So either you're having a very lonely girls' trip, or you're not having a girls' trip at all. I can explain. I'm sure you can. You've gotten really good at explaining things lately. But here's the thing, Marta. I'm tired of explanations. I'm tired of lies. And I'm really tired of being treated like I'm too stupid to figure out what's going on in my own marriage. Owen, please, just let me come home and we can talk about this. You are home. This is where you live, remember? With your husband. The guy who's been covering for your lies for months without even knowing it. I could hear her crying now, soft sobs that might have broken my heart 6 months ago. Now they just sounded like another performance. Don't do anything crazy, Owen. Please, just wait for me to get home. I'm not going to do anything crazy, Marta. I'm going to do something sane, probably for the first time in months. I hung up and turned off my phone. The funny thing about discovering your wife is a liar is how quickly you become a detective. I'd never thought of myself as particularly observant, but suddenly I was noticing everything. The way she'd started password protecting her phone, the new lingerie that never made appearances at home, the credit card statements she'd started handling exclusively. I made coffee and sat down at the kitchen table with Marta's laptop. She'd left it behind, probably figuring she wouldn't need it for her spa weekend. The password was our anniversary date, because even cheaters can be sentimental. Her email was a goldmine of deception. Hotel confirmations for weekends I thought she'd spent with the girls. Dinner reservations for 2 at restaurants I'd never heard of. And buried in her deleted folder, like a love letter written in receipts, the evidence of a double life I'd been subsidizing without knowing it. The Marriott in Rochester. $347 for one night, 2 adults. The boutique hotel in Stillwater, $289. Romantic getaway package. The bed and breakfast in Red Wing, $412, champagne and roses included. All of them on weekends when she'd supposedly been bonding with her college girlfriends, splitting costs and sharing rooms like they were still 22 and broke. I printed everything. Call me old-fashioned, but there's something about holding physical evidence that makes it real in a way pixels on a screen never can. The printer hummed and churned, producing page after page of my wife's carefully constructed fantasy life. My phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on out of curiosity, wondering how long Marta would keep calling. The display showed 15 missed calls and 23 text messages. I scrolled through them, watching her emotional state deteriorate in real time. Owen, please answer the phone. I know you're angry, but we can work this out. I'm coming home. We need to talk. Please don't do anything until I get there. I love you. This doesn't change that. Owen, you're scaring me. The last message was from 10 minutes ago. I'm in the car. I'll be home in 2 hours. Please don't leave. Leave? The thought hadn't occurred to me. This was my house, too. I'd been making payments on it for 15 years, had installed the ceiling fans, and fixed the leaky faucet and painted the guest bedroom twice because Marta couldn't decide between Sage Whisper and Garden Mist. If anyone was leaving, it wasn't going to be me. I called Big Mike. Change of plans, I said when he answered. Can you come over here instead? I need a witness. A witness to what? You planning to murder someone? Nope. Planning to divorce someone. But I want a neutral party here when she gets home. Holy shit, Owen. What happened? I gave him the abbreviated version. The girl's trip that wasn't, the credit card statements that were, and the phone call that had pulled the thread on everything. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Mike said. And Owen, I'm bringing beer. You're going to need it. While I waited for Mike, I kept digging through Marta's digital life. Her browser history was a tutorial in deception. How to hide purchases from your spouse. Best apps for private messaging. Signs your husband suspects you're cheating. That last one stung. She'd been Googling ways to tell if I was onto her, which meant she'd been worried about getting caught. Which meant she knew what she was doing was wrong. Which meant every lie, every fake girls trip, every time she'd looked me in the eye and told me she loved me while planning her next rendezvous with Ryan Foster had been a conscious choice. I found his Facebook profile. Ryan Foster, 39, real estate agent with Coldwell Banker. Married to Nicole Foster, father of 2 kids who looked like they played travel soccer. His profile picture showed him at some charity golf tournament, all white teeth and expensive sunglasses, the kind of guy who probably used words like synergy in casual conversation. He was handsome in that generic real estate agent way. Tall, fit, the kind of tan that comes from a salon rather than actual outdoor work. Everything I wasn't, basically. I was 44, carried an extra 20 pounds around my middle, and my idea of grooming was remembering to trim my beard once a week. But I had something Ryan Foster didn't have. I knew how to fix things. And I was about to fix this situation in a way that would make it very clear to everyone involved that Owen Jacobs wasn't nearly as stupid as they'd thought. Mike arrived with a 12-pack of Grain Belt and the kind of grim expression he usually reserved for Vikings games. He took one look at the papers spread across my kitchen table and let out a low whistle. Jesus, Owen, how long has this been going on? Best I can tell, about 8 months, maybe longer. I handed him a beer and opened one for myself. She's been living a completely separate life, Mike. Hotels, restaurants, weekend getaways, all on our credit card, all while telling me she was with the girls. Mike studied the hotel receipts, shaking his head. This Ryan guy know she's married? Oh, he knows. Look at this. I showed him a printed email exchange between Marta and someone with the initials RF. She mentions having to get home to Owen, and he responds with some joke about keeping the husband happy. What a piece of shit. Yeah, well, he's about to find out what happens when the husband gets unhappy. Mike looked at me with concern. Owen, you're not planning anything stupid, are you? Because I love you like a brother, but I'm not helping you bury any bodies. No bodies, Mike. But I am planning to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people they're dealing with. We sat in silence for a moment, drinking our beer and contemplating the wreckage of my marriage. Outside, the October wind was picking up, rattling the windows and reminding me that winter was coming whether I was ready for it or not. So what's the plan? Mike asked. First, I'm going to let Marta come home and try to explain herself. I want to hear what kind of story she's prepared. Then, depending on how that goes, I'm going to introduce her and Ryan to the concept of consequences. What kind of consequences? I smiled for the first time in hours. The kind that make people think twice before they decide to screw with Owen Jacobs. My phone rang. Marta again. This time, I answered. Where are you? I asked. About an hour out. Owen, I know you're angry, but please don't do anything drastic. We can work through this. I'm not angry, Marta. I'm disappointed. There's a difference. What does that mean? It means I expected better from you. I expected honesty. I expected respect. I expected my wife to act like she was married. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. Multiple times over multiple months. This wasn't a mistake, Marta. This was a choice. A series of choices. Can we please just talk when I get home? Oh, we're going to talk. But first, You're going to explain to me how you thought this was going to end. Did you think I'd never find out? Did you think I was too stupid to notice? Or did you just not care?" She was crying again, but it sounded different this time. Less performance, more genuine panic. "I care, Owen. I love you." "No, you don't. You love the idea of me. You love having a husband to come home to, someone to split the bills with, someone to maintain the house and pretend everything's normal. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to do this." "That's not true." "We'll see. You've got about an hour to figure out what you're going to say when you get here. I suggest you make it good." I hung up and looked at Mike. "She'll be here soon." "You want me to stay?" "Yeah, I want a witness to whatever story she's about to tell me. And Mike, bring that phone of yours. I have a feeling we're going to want to record this conversation." Marta's Lexus pulled into the driveway at 4:47 p.m., the headlights cutting through the early October dusk like searchlights. I watched from the living room window as she sat in the car for several minutes, probably rehearsing whatever explanation she'd prepared during the drive home. Mike was in the kitchen, officially helping me fix the garbage disposal, but actually serving as my witness and moral support. We'd agreed he'd stay out of sight unless things got heated, but his presence alone made me feel more grounded. When Marta finally came through the front door, she looked like a woman who'd been crying for 2 hours. Her makeup was smudged, her hair was disheveled, and her hands were shaking as she set down her purse. "Owen?" she called out, her voice small and tentative. "In here," I replied from my spot on the couch. I'd arranged the printed emails and receipts in neat stacks on the coffee table, a paper trail of betrayal laid out like evidence in a courtroom. She appeared in the doorway and stopped when she saw the documents. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. "What is all this?" "This is your life, Marta, the one you've been living without me." I gestured to the papers. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, email confirmations, 8 months of lies, all paid for with our joint credit card. She moved closer, her eyes scanning the evidence. "Owen, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You've become very good at explaining things. But before you start, I want you to understand something. I know about Ryan Foster. I know about the fake girls' trips. I know about Sarah and Lisa and Jennifer, and how you've been using their names to cover your tracks even though you haven't spoken to them in months." Marta sank into the chair across from me, her face crumpling. "How did you find out?" "Does it matter? The point is, I did find out. The question now is what we're going to do about it." "We can work through this," she said quickly, leaning forward. "People get through infidelity all the time. We can go to counseling, we can—" "Counseling?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Marta, this wasn't a one-night mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a relationship, a secret relationship that you funded with my money while lying to my face for months. It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Make me understand how a married woman ends up spending weekends in hotels with another man." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I felt invisible, Owen. In our marriage, in my life, everywhere. We'd become roommates, not lovers. We barely talked about anything that mattered. We hadn't been intimate in months. I felt like I was disappearing." "So you decided to reappear in Ryan Foster's bed." "It wasn't supposed to happen. We met at a networking event, started talking, and he made me feel seen, appreciated, like I mattered." "You do matter. You're my wife." "But when was the last time you told me that? When was the last time you looked at me like you wanted me, not just like I was part of the furniture?" Her words hit harder than I expected, because she wasn't entirely wrong. Our marriage had become routine, comfortable in the way old furniture is comfortable, familiar, reliable, but not exciting. "So instead of talking to me about it, you decided to have an affair." I never meant for it to go that far. But it did, multiple times, in multiple hotels, all while telling me you loved me and letting me believe we were working towards something together. Mike appeared in the doorway, drawn by the raised voices. Marta looked startled to see him. "Mike's here as a witness," I explained. "I want someone else to hear whatever you're about to tell me." "Owen, this is between us." "No, it's not. The minute you started using our friends' names as alibis, you made it everyone's business. The minute you started spending our money on your boyfriend, you made it my business. And the minute you decided to lie to me for 8 months, you made it bigger than just us." Marta looked between Mike and me, tears streaming down her face. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to tell me the truth, all of it. How long has this been going on? How serious is it? And what exactly did you think was going to happen when I found out?" She took a shaky breath. "It started in February. We met at a healthcare conference, started emailing, then texting, then meeting for coffee. It was innocent at first, just someone to talk to who understood what I was going through. What you were going through? You mean being married to me? Being married, period. Feeling like I'd lost myself somewhere along the way. Ryan made me feel young again, desirable again. And the hotels? The first time was in April. We'd been talking for months, and one night after a work dinner, it happened. I told myself it was a mistake, that it wouldn't happen again. But it did. Yes, because being with him made me remember who I used to be before I became just Owen's wife and the kid's mother. The kids know? No. God, no. They don't know anything. Good, because they don't deserve to have their mother's selfishness screw up their lives too. Mike stepped forward. Marta, can I ask you something? Did you ever think about what this would do to Owen? Did you ever consider how he'd feel when he found out? She looked at Mike with surprise, as if she'd forgotten he was there. Of course I did. That's why I was so careful. You weren't careful, I interrupted. You were sloppy. You used our credit card. You lied about being with people I could easily contact. And you left a digital trail that a teenager could follow. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me. Every time you looked me in the eye and lied about where you'd been. Every time you let me worry about our finances while you were spending hundreds of dollars on hotel rooms. Every time you came home from being with him and pretended to be my loving wife. The room fell silent, except for the sound of Marta's crying and the wind outside. I looked at this woman I'd been married to for over 2 decades and realized I didn't know her at all. The person sitting across from me was a stranger who happened to share my last name and my mortgage. What happens now? She asked finally. Now you pack a bag and leave, tonight. Owen, please. I'm not kicking you out permanently, but I need time to think, and I can't do that with you here. You can stay at a hotel, you can stay with Ryan, I don't care, but you can't stay here. Where will I go? That's not my problem anymore, Marta. You've been making your own arrangements for months. I'm sure you'll figure something out. She stood up slowly, like an old woman, and walked toward the stairs. Halfway up, she turned back. Owen, I really do love you. I know you don't believe that, but it's true. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman who'd shared my bed and my life and my dreams for 22 years. Maybe you do, Marta, but it's not enough. Love without respect is just sentiment, and you lost my respect the minute you decided I was too stupid to notice what you were doing. She nodded and continued up the stairs. 20 minutes later, she came back down with a suitcase and her makeup bag. I'll call you in a few days, she said. Don't. When I'm ready to talk, I'll call you. After she left, Mike and I sat in the kitchen, finishing our beers in silence. Finally, he spoke. You okay? No, but I will be. What's next? I smiled grimly. Next, I introduced Mr. Ryan Foster to the concept of consequences. Monday morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. As a maintenance supervisor at Minneapolis General Hospital, I had a reputation for showing up no matter what. Flu, hangover, family crisis. I was the guy who kept the lights on and the heat running while everyone else dealt with their personal drama. But today, I had personal drama of my own to handle. I'd spent Sunday researching Ryan Foster like I was writing his biography. Social media, professional websites, public records. By the time I was done, I knew more about him than his own mother probably did. Ryan worked out of the Coldwell Banker office in Edina, drove a white BMW 3 Series, and lived in a $400,000 house in Bloomington with his wife Nicole and their 2 kids. He played in a recreational hockey league on Tuesday nights, volunteered at his kids' school fundraisers, and posted Facebook updates about his real estate success with the frequency of a weather app. He also had an open house scheduled for Monday afternoon at a property in Minnetonka, a $650,000 colonial with lake access, perfect for the kind of buyers who had more money than sense. I put on my best khakis and a button-down shirt, the kind of outfit that screamed potential homebuyer with a decent credit score. Then I drove to Minnetonka to meet my wife's boyfriend. The house was exactly what you'd expect for that price range. Oversized, overdecorated, and overpriced. The kind of place where people bought granite countertops they'd never use and formal dining rooms they'd visit twice a year. Ryan was in the kitchen, talking to a young couple about the gourmet appliance package, when I walked in. In person, he was shorter than I'd expected, maybe 5'10", with the kind of artificially white teeth that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Welcome, he said when he saw me, immediately abandoning the young couple to focus on what he probably assumed was a more serious buyer. I'm Ryan Foster with Coldwell Banker. Are you here about the property? Actually, I'm here about my wife. The smile froze on his face like a computer screen that had just crashed. I'm sorry? Marta Jacobs. You might know her as the woman you've been taking to hotels for the past 8 months. The color drained from Ryan's face so quickly, I thought he might faint. The young couple stopped pretending to examine the Sub-Zero refrigerator and started paying very close attention to our conversation. I think there's been some misunderstanding, Ryan began. No misunderstanding. You're Ryan Foster, real estate agent, married to Nicole, father of Emma and Tyler. You drive a white BMW, license plate RYF 2019, and you have a scar on your left hand from when you broke your wrist playing hockey in college. How do you know all that? Because when someone's screwing my wife, I make it my business to learn everything about them. Amazing what you can find out about a person when you put your mind to it. The young couple had given up all pretense of house hunting and were now openly staring. Ryan noticed and tried to regain some composure. Sir, I think we should discuss this privately. Why? You weren't particularly private when you were discussing my wife's body with her in those text messages, the ones where you described exactly what you wanted to do to her in the Marriott hot tub. Ryan's face went from pale to bright red. Look, I don't know what you think you know. I know everything, Ryan. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, text messages, emails. I know about the weekend in Stillwater where you pretended to be newlyweds. I know about the bed and breakfast in Red Wing where you ordered champagne and strawberries. I know about last weekend when my wife told me she was going to a spa with her girlfriends, but was actually planning to spend 2 days in bed with you. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I'm not done yet. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. I also know about your wife, Nicole. Lovely woman, by the way. We had a very interesting conversation this morning. That wasn't entirely true. I hadn't called Nicole yet, but Ryan didn't know that, and the look of pure terror that crossed his face told me everything I needed to know about how much his wife knew about his extracurricular activities. You called my wife? I called my wife's boyfriend's wife. Seemed like the neighborly thing to do. Nicole was very interested to learn about your relationship with Marta, especially the financial details. Ryan looked around the room, probably calculating how quickly he could get the other potential buyers out of earshot. But it was too late for damage control. What do you want? He asked quietly. I want you to understand something very clearly. My wife may have been stupid enough to throw away 22 years of marriage for a few weekends with you, but I'm not stupid enough to let you walk away without consequences. I never forced her. No, but you knew she was married. You knew she was lying to her husband. You knew she was stealing money from our joint account to pay for your little romantic getaways. And you didn't care, because you were getting what you wanted. The young couple had apparently heard enough. They mumbled something about needing to see more properties and headed for the door, leaving Ryan and me alone in the oversized kitchen. Look, Owen, Mr. Jacobs, we're not friends. Mr. Jacobs, I understand you're upset, but this thing with Marta, it just happened. We didn't plan it. You didn't plan 8 months of hotel stays? You didn't plan the romantic dinners and weekend getaways? You just accidentally kept ending up in bed with my wife? It's complicated. No, it's not. It's simple. You wanted something that didn't belong to you, so you took it. And now you're going to learn what happens when you steal from the wrong person. Are you threatening me? I smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. I don't make threats, Ryan. I make promises. And here's my promise to you. By the time I'm done, everyone in your life is going to know exactly what kind of man you are. Your wife, your kids, your boss, your clients, your neighbors, your hockey buddies, everyone. I can, and I will. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to save me the trouble and tell them yourself. Ryan stared at me for a long moment, probably trying to figure out if I was bluffing. I wasn't. What exactly do you want me to do? I want you to end it with my wife, completely. No contact, no communication, no nothing. I want you to tell her it's over and why it's over. And I want you to think very carefully about whether your marriage is worth throwing away for a woman who is willing to betray hers. And if I do that, then maybe your wife doesn't need to see the photos I have of you and Marta at the Stillwater Inn. Maybe your boss doesn't need to know you've been using company time to conduct your affair. Maybe your kids don't need to find out why Daddy's been working so many weekend open houses lately. Ryan's shoulders sagged. You have photos? I have everything, Ryan. Private investigator, very thorough, very discreet. Amazing what people will do for $300 and a legitimate reason to follow someone around. That was a lie. I'd found everything I needed on Marta's laptop and our credit card statements. But Ryan didn't know that, and the threat was enough to make him believe I had more ammunition than I was showing. How do I know you won't use them anyway? Because unlike you and my wife, I keep my word. End it with Marta, and this stays between us. Keep seeing her, and I guarantee you'll regret it. I turned to leave, then stopped at the kitchen doorway. Oh, and Ryan? Next time you want to steal someone's wife, make sure her husband isn't the kind of man who knows how to fix problems. because I'm very good at fixing problems. I left him standing in that overpriced kitchen, probably wondering how his perfect little affair had turned into a nightmare so quickly. By the time I got home, I had 3 voicemails from Marta. The first voicemail was panicked. "Owen, what did you do? Ryan called me, he's freaking out, he says you threatened him. Call me back right now." The second was angry. "I can't believe you went to his work. You had no right to embarrass him like that. This is between us, not him." The third was desperate. "Please, Owen, just call me back. We can work this out, but not if you keep doing crazy things. Please." I deleted all 3 without calling her back. Instead, I called Big Mike. "How'd it go?" he asked. "Better than expected. I think Mr. Foster is starting to understand that actions have consequences." "What's next?" "Next, I wait. Either he ends it with Marta, or I escalate things. Either way, this situation is about to resolve itself. And if Marta doesn't take the hint, then she'll learn the same lesson Ryan just learned. That Owen Jacobs might be a lot of things, but stupid isn't one of them. I spent the rest of Monday organizing my evidence and planning my next moves. If Ryan was smart, he'd cut ties with Marta immediately and hope I kept my word about keeping things quiet. If he wasn't smart, well, I had backup plans for that too. Tuesday morning, I went back to work. My supervisor, Janet Rodriguez, asked if I was feeling better. Much better, I told her. Just needed a day to take care of some personal business. Everything okay at home? Getting there. I threw myself into work with the kind of focus I hadn't felt in months. Replacing broken ceiling tiles, fixing malfunctioning equipment, troubleshooting electrical problems. All of it felt manageable compared to the mess my personal life had become. Around lunchtime, my phone rang. Marta. "Owen, we need to talk." "Do we?" "Ryan ended it. He said he can't see me anymore because you threatened to ruin his life." "I didn't threaten anything. I just explained the situation to him in terms he could understand." "What did you say to him?" "I told him the truth, that he was sleeping with a married woman, that he was helping her steal money from her husband, and that there would be consequences if it continued. You had no right. I had every right. He was screwing my wife with my money. That gives me all the rights I need." There was a long pause. When Marta spoke again, her voice was different, smaller. "So what happens now? Now you decide what's more important to you, your marriage or your boyfriend, because you can't have both. I already lost my boyfriend, thanks to you. You lost your boyfriend because he's not stupid enough to destroy his life for a woman who was willing to destroy hers. The question is whether you're smart enough to learn from his example." "What does that mean?" "It means you have a choice to make, Marta. You can come home, we can try to work through this, and maybe we can salvage something from 22 years of marriage. Or you can keep playing games, and I can show you just how creative I can get when someone tries to make me look like a fool. Are you threatening me now? I'm offering you an opportunity. The same opportunity I offered Ryan. The chance to end this with some dignity intact. And if I don't, then you'll find out what happens when you push Owen Jacobs too far." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I need time to think." "You've had 8 months to think. But fine, take your time. Just remember that every day you spend thinking is another day I spend planning." "Planning what?" "You'll find out if you make the wrong choice." I hung up and went back to work, feeling lighter than I had in days. The ball was in Marta's court now. She could choose to come home and try to rebuild what she'd broken, or she could choose to keep playing games. Either way, I was done being the fool in this story. Wednesday evening, Mike came over with pizza and beer. We sat on my back deck, watching the October sunset and talking about everything except my marriage. "You know," Mike said after his second beer, "I always thought you and Marta had it figured out. 22 years, 2 kids, nice house. Seemed like the American dream." "Yeah, well, dreams have a way of turning into nightmares when you're not paying attention." "You think you'll be able to forgive her?" I thought about that for a while. I don't know. Maybe. But forgiveness and trust are 2 different things. I might be able to forgive her for what she did, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust her again. And you can't have a marriage without trust. Nope. You can have a business arrangement, you can have a friendship, you can have a lot of things. But you can't have a marriage. So what's the plan if she comes back? Counseling, I guess. See if there's anything left worth saving. But she's going to have to prove she wants to save it. I'm done being the only one fighting for this marriage. And if she doesn't come back, then I'll know I made the right choice. Thursday morning, I woke up to find Marta's car in the driveway. She was sitting at the kitchen table, still in yesterday's clothes, looking like she hadn't slept. "How long have you been here?" I asked. "About an hour. I still have my key." "For now." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I want to come home, Owen. I want to fix this. What changed your mind? I spent 2 days thinking about what you said, about choices and consequences, and I realized that everything good in my life, our house, our kids, our history together, all of it was built with you, not with Ryan. And I threw it all away for someone who dropped me the minute things got complicated. That's not love, Owen. That's just selfishness. I poured myself coffee and sat down across from her. So what do you want from me? I want another chance. I want to go to counseling. I want to rebuild trust. I want to remember why we fell in love in the first place. That's going to take time. I know. And it's going to take work. Real work, not just words. I know. And there are going to be conditions. She nodded. What kind of conditions? Complete transparency. Phone passwords, email access, credit card statements. If you're going to rebuild trust, you're going to have to earn it. Okay. And counseling. Real counseling with someone who specializes in infidelity. Not just marriage counseling, but individual therapy for both of us. Okay. And if you ever lie to me again, about anything, even something small, it's over. No second chances, no explanations, no working it out. It's just over. I understand. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation, but all I saw was exhaustion and regret. Why should I believe you, Marta? You've been lying to me for 8 months. How do I know this isn't just another performance? Because I lost everything that mattered for something that turned out to be nothing. Because I hurt the one person who never deserved to be hurt. Because I finally understand what I threw away. And what's that? A man who loved me enough to fight for our marriage even after I betrayed him. A man who could have destroyed my life but chose to give me a chance to save it instead. I sipped my coffee and thought about 22 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage, and a future that had seemed certain until 4 days ago. Okay, I said finally. We can try. But Marta, this is your last chance. If you screw this up, there won't be another one. She started crying then, but they were different tears than before. Relief, maybe, or gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet. Thank me in a year if we're still together and happy. We will be, I promise. Don't promise me anything, Marta. Just show me. 6 months later, I was replacing a light fixture in the pediatric ward when my phone buzzed with a text from Marta. Dinner at 6, I'm making your favorite. My favorite was pot roast with red potatoes, the same meal she'd cooked for our second date 24 years ago. It was comfort food in the truest sense, the kind of meal that said home, in a way that had nothing to do with mortgages or property lines. I texted back, see you at 6. The counseling had been harder than either of us expected. Dr. Sarah Chen was a no-nonsense therapist who specialized in infidelity recovery, and she didn't believe in easy answers or quick fixes. She made us examine not just what Marta had done, but why our marriage had become vulnerable to it in the first place. Infidelity is rarely just about sex, she'd told us during our 3rd session. It's about unmet needs, poor communication, and the gradual erosion of emotional intimacy. She was right, of course. Marta's affair hadn't happened in a vacuum. We'd been drifting apart for years, becoming roommates instead of lovers, taking each other for granted in the way that long-married couples often do. That didn't excuse what Marta had done. Nothing could excuse 8 months of lies and betrayal. But it helped explain how we'd gotten to a place where she could rationalize it. The individual therapy had been just as important. I'd learned that my tendency to avoid conflict had contributed to our problems. Instead of addressing issues when they arose, I'd let them fester until they became resentments. And resentment, Dr. Chen explained, was like acid on the bonds of marriage. Marta's individual sessions focused on understanding why she'd been willing to risk everything for an affair that she admitted had never made her truly happy. I felt like I was disappearing, she'd told me after one particularly difficult session. Like I'd lost myself somewhere between being your wife and the kid's mother. It was painful to hear, but it was also honest. And honesty, we were learning, was the foundation of everything else. The transparency had been challenging at first. Marta had given me all her passwords, and I'd used them. Reading her emails, checking her browser history, monitoring her text messages. It felt invasive and wrong, but it was necessary. Trust, once broken, had to be rebuilt brick by brick. Gradually, I'd stopped checking as obsessively. Not because I trusted her completely, that would take time, but because her behavior had been consistently honest. She came home when she said she would, went where she said she was going, and answered her phone every time I called. More importantly, she'd started talking to me again. Really talking. not just coordinating schedules or discussing household logistics. She told me about her day, her frustrations at work, her fears about our kids growing up and moving away, and I'd started talking back, sharing my own thoughts and feelings instead of just grunting acknowledgement. We'd also started dating again. Actual dates, planned in advance, where we dressed up and went out and remembered why we'd fallen in love in the first place. It felt strange at first, courting your own wife after 22 years of marriage. But it was also exciting in a way I hadn't expected. The physical intimacy had returned slowly. The first time we'd made love after she came home, it had been awkward and emotional, both of us crying afterward for different reasons. But it had gotten better, more natural, as we'd rebuilt trust and connection. Ryan Foster had kept his word and stayed away from Marta completely. I'd heard through the hospital gossip network that he and his wife were having problems, but I didn't know if that was related to our confrontation or just coincidence. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. That evening, pot roast filled the house with warmth. Marta, in her blue dress, listened intently as I shared my day, repairs, conversations. She recounted her meeting. We talked easily, like newlyweds again. Over dinner, she took my hand. I saw Ryan at the store. He wanted to apologize. I told him that chapter's closed. I don't want contact. Relief washed over me. You're not angry at me for ending it? No. You showed me the truth. He wasn't worth losing you. We cleaned up together, mindful, grateful. Later, curled on the couch, she whispered, I love you. The deep never lose you again.